Hi, I'm Chike Coleman from Sound on Sight and Smile Politely. That's Chuck Koplinski from the Illinois Times, the News Gazette. And this is Real Review Cinematic Underground. This week we're going to be talking about
How have you been?
It's
been a while.
I had some health issues.
Yeah, but you look great.
Well, thank you. I do try. That may be because the last time we were doing the show, I actually had more hair, and it was getting out of control, so I had to...
Yeah, you know, that hair, it gets out of control real quick on you.
I had to take care of it. What can I say?
Well, you look great.
Yeah, well, I had a really interesting experience the past 2 weeks. I actually got some films in.
No kidding!
Yeah, I know. I was happy as you are.
Who would have thunk it?
I know. So this week, I wanted to talk about Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the latest Marvel Phase 2 film.
Yes, Phase 2.
With Chris Evans. There's also Haley Atwell, Sam Jackson, Colby Smulders, and who am I forgetting?
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson.
Duh.
Who looked fantastic.
Duh.
And what's
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford, and we're missing one guy. Who's the other guy?
Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie, who
a very good
appears
addition, I
up
think.
in several movies in the last couple of years that I've really liked.
He's very hot, yeah.
And he did really well in this film. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is about the fact that Captain America, after slightly adjusting to 21st century life, comes up against some issues in S.H.I.E.L.D. because he's trying to do the right thing, and he believes S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing the wrong thing, and this leads to one of the most shocking twists in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, which we won't reveal yet. But I will say that this is probably my favorite Marvel movie since the Avengers. Chuck, what did you think of Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
Yeah, it's really well done. It's really well done. And this sounds like a strange thing to say, but I think one of the reasons it is so well done is that it scales things back. And I know that sounds strange when you look at the third act, because the third act of this film, of course, we've become a very big Marvel action set piece. But the first two-thirds plays more like a spy film. And I think that's one of the reasons I liked it. In scaling it back, I think we're able to concentrate more on character. And I think in many ways he's the most intriguing character. This whole man out of time thing.
Yeah, because he's lost so much.
Yeah, he's lost so much. He still has these 1940s World War II sensibilities that come in clash with our modern sensibilities. And I think that's really the crux of this film. When he finds out what S.H.I.E.L.D. is up to, what they're doing, it goes against everything that he thinks he represents. And I don't think it's any accident that he has a new uniform in this film, and I don't think it's any accident that by the end he has shed that uniform and has adapted his old uniform because of what it represents and what he represents. This movie works on a couple of different levels, and that's another reason I like it. It is not just a slam-bang action thing, although it has those things in it. This really is a very biting commentary, I think, about where we're at as far as American policy on a global scale is concerned right now, and the issues we've had to contend with in order to remain secure, whatever that means anymore.
I would say that you're right on the political aims. The thing I figured out when watching this film, I was like, I now understand what makes Marvel movies work. And the ones that haven't worked well, I figured out why those don't work well. It's all about the relationships. The more you can connect the lead characters with their supporting cast and give each of them something new to learn about the other person, the more you're going to draw us in. So that when you get to those action set pieces, they're very rewarding. You want to see the teamwork. You want to see them working together to get to that common goal. That's why I think Avengers made over $1 billion.
Well, and those action set pieces were emotionally involved then. They mean something. It's not just filler at that point.
That's why I didn't like Thor: The Dark World, because I thought nobody was really connected to what Thor was going through, other than maybe Loki. And, of course, because Tom Hiddleston is being Loki, it's going to be a cash cab for every teenage girl in the universe. But I really think that what makes a Marvel film succeed, and why I didn't like the first one, is I really didn't feel him having relationships with anybody else, not even Bucky.
But I think you're being a bit unfair with, the first film. I think we've seen with most of these superhero films, a lot of them don't really get moving until the second movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the first film has the burden of introducing everything and everyone. You know, even though we've read comic books and we know the backstory, they still have to go through those motions.
I realize that, but I still think you need to be able to draw the audience needs to be drawn in by these characters. And that's the problem with the first movie, is that I didn't feel drawn in. I didn't feel like...
So would you say that you didn't really like the first movie of any of them?
The only exception to that is Iron Man, because it was such a stark contrast to what I thought Tony Stark was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was so much biting humor involved in that character, that drew me in a lot more than I would have normally been drawn in, because what I really saw him as when I was watching the cartoons and reading the comics was just as a guy who, through his own stubbornness, got involved in something that caused him to have that whole
A
conscience thing spur up in him and deal with industrial design, and that he was a guy in a suit who realized he needed to make the world a better place and stop building weapons. There was no humor in the Iron Man comics that I used to read. It was just flat on the page. He's a billionaire who's getting things done now, who realizes he needs to go do a better way about being this industrial power, or helping the world be an industrial power. There was none of that biting humor to make that transformation worth it. And that's what made the first Iron Man film for me. Likewise with Thor. You know, Thor was an arrogant prick a bit most of the time throughout the first movie. And to see him change by interacting with human beings was a real fun shift that you could believe in. For Chris Evans' character of Steve Rogers, my problem was he got the strength and the good looks and everything that he needed to be successful, but the only thing we really got is, oh, now Steve believes in himself. That's really what I saw, is, oh, now Steve believes in himself. And he's always going to be going for the right thing, and we want to watch him go through the right thing. But we didn't get to any of those relationships built while that transformation was happening, I don't believe, other than Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. I mean, you're free to disagree if you want to.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I just think that the makeup of the first films, having to go through all this exposition, it makes it difficult to do that, and only after things are established can we make those connections. And I think that's why the second films tend to be better.
Okay.
I mean, even if you go back to the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, the second one's the best.
Oh, definitely.
There's no question.
I don't disagree with your theory there, then.
And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with part 2 of this new Spider-Man that's coming out in a couple of weeks, to see if they can right some of the wrongs of the first one. Because I think your criticisms of few connections being made is right on, as far as the Amazing Spider-Man is concerned.
Right, definitely there in that film.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, one of the highlights of this film for me wasn't Steve Rogers' Captain America. I almost want to give it to Steve Rogers' relationship with Black Widow, just because that was just, the banter between them was so
if anything, I wanted more
electric.
of that.
I wanted more of that too.
Yeah.
Because that showed me how well they work together as a team. What I really liked, though, was Mr. Robert Redford stepping in as
the bad guy.
The bad guy.
Sorry, gang, he's the bad guy.
and not being this contemptuous, I have to win level angry, but more of a quiet, poised guy that says this is the way it has to be.
Right, and you can, well, again, one of the things that makes the film so smart is that when he explains his purposes, you almost buy it.
Yeah, you're almost there.
And even if you don't buy it, you can understand how he gets to this point. His justifications to a certain point make sense. But from a moral point, they don't. Mm-hmm. From a logical point, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, I'm on your
why
side.
You're going to do that, yeah.
But if we go through with this, I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. Mm-hmm. And that whole conflict between practicality and morality, I think, is, again, one of the key things that makes the film work. Even with Captain America, even with that character, I think he knows the practicality of it, but obviously he can't go there, and he makes that stand. I can't believe, and I love the fact that Robert Redford, of all people, says, "Hail Hydra." I just
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I mean, this mega star from another generation, they got him to do that. You know, and that's another thing that makes these films special. They're so smart, they're so well done to be able to get him, to be able to get Michael Douglas, who is in the upcoming Ant-Man. That shows you, I think, how special these scripts are, and that these guys even recognize, I've got to get involved in this.
I think what works so well with Marvel films, and this is kind of where I want to leave it, is that they give the films so much heart and depth with each character. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. You could be there for 5 minutes like Coulson was in the first Iron Man and still be somebody
you're there.
you could be depending on to be there or be the central heartbeat of why these characters work together. When they killed Coulson, we'd seen him, 4 or 5 times in the various movies?
And never in a major way.
And never in a major way.
There.
Seen here or there. And when they kill him, we're all like, no, what? No!
But you have to have that then for that death to mean something.
Exactly.
And that's, and I like that.
I do. I think that was a very smart play by Marvel, and I think that's why they work.
Yeah, I know you want to leave this film, but I do want to say one more thing. That whole set piece, I've seen the film twice. It was jarring at first, but then I watched again that whole set piece that they have, the action set piece in which Bucky and Cap go at it in the streets of Washington, D.C., is so well done.
I still like the one with
so well
Sam
done.
Jackson better, though.
Oh, and that's well done, too, the car chasing. That's well good, too. But again, both of those were not dependent on special effects. It's editing, it's choreography, it's much more of a basic filmmaking style.
And you
again,
can see
that's
the
what I mean
emotions
about them.
all over their face.
Right, and that's what I mean again about them scaling it back here. And that I really liked a lot. Both those sequences are very well done.
I like the raw sensibility of it, and that's why I really love the film, is that you could get your action, you could get your heart.
And, you know, and the genius of these is that they leave you wanting more. And you know more is coming. Yeah. You know, which is, you know.
They even had that little tagline that they usually use for Bond movies, Captain America will return in.
Yes, they used to do that with the Bond movies, you're right. And they give you just enough. I mean, the 2 things there at the end after the credits.
You're like, I want to know more as soon
I know
as
where
possible.
we're headed, and I cannot wait to get there.
Yeah.
So,
and
a lot of fun.
The other thing I want to say, and this is sort of on the tangent of Captain America, which is the comic books, I figured out where Marvel's heading throughout their phases. They're headed towards a very distinct Marvel plotline. I don't know if you've read...
I know where they're going.
Civil War? That's where I think they're going.
Maybe eventually, but
in Phase 3, that's where I think they're going.
I think we're headed to the Infinity Gauntlet.
The Infinity Gauntlet first, then the Civil War.
I don't think we're going to get that far. I hope I'm wrong. I hope maybe the Infinity Gauntlet is the end of Phase 2, and then maybe at the end of Phase 3. But did you notice the name they dropped in this film?
Which one?
Stephen Strange.
Yeah. Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you?
We've fucking geeked out here. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I guess we need to move on.
What did you score this by?
I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
I loved it. There wasn't really anything I could see that was wrong with it.
I gave it 4 too as well. The second film that I want to talk with you about today is one that I saw last week, and it's a sequel to a 2012 film. It's called The Raid 2, directed by Gareth Evans. Sorry, Gareth Evans. And the first film involved a police officer named Rama fighting his way through 12 to 15 floors of a building to get to one main bad guy, but having to beat up all these criminals.
Basically, it was the Indonesian version of Dredd.
Yes, very much. Yes.
And they were both good.
And so you saw The Raid first. Why don't you tell?
Oh, well, basically, you've summed it up. He and a SWAT team infiltrate this high-rise in Jakarta, which is run by a mob family, and they have soldiers on each floor, and they've got to get to the top. The interesting thing about The Raid 2 was that, and I knew this as I was watching it, but he confirmed it, I read, the film picks up like 2 hours after the first one comes to an end. So, I mean, this poor guy, this cop, gets no time to catch his breath.
I really liked the first one, and upon seeing the second one, I got this really weird sensibility of what I knew what the film was by the time credits rolled. It's The Godfather Part 2, plus The Departed, adding in the best martial arts fight scenes you've ever seen in your life. That's what I feel like the Raid 2 is.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I said in my review is that there's nothing original here plot-wise.
Oh, no, not at all.
But I didn't care. It is so well done. The choreography, the martial arts stuff. There's that one sequence. There's a sequence that breaks out in the prison, a riot sequence.
Oh, the mud fight.
And it's one of those things I'm going to have to go back and watch again, because it seemed to me, it only occurred to me halfway through, and I want to go back and confirm this, but it only confirmed to me halfway through because I was so into it. But it seems as though the director had one camera following everything around. I want to go back and make sure. I was conscious of there finally being an edit.
So it wasn't a full tracking shot, was it?
I think he might have had a camera attached to his chest because it moves so quickly at times. And again, I want to go back and watch it again. But it's one unbroken take for quite some time of all these various fights breaking out. And it's just a brilliant, brilliant piece of action filmmaking.
It took me a really long time to find Rama in that mud fight.
Oh yeah, everyone's a mess.
And
it is a bit confusing at times.
I could easily find the person he's after that he's trying to befriend.
Right.
But him, no.
Yeah.
There was so much going on. They were just like, oh, this is frantic. But again, like you said, I didn't care. I didn't care. I wanted him to get to the end goal and befriend this guy, and he did. And he got into that organization. I should say that the Raid 2, along with picking up 10 minutes after the first film, is about Rama, the lead character from the last film.
Infiltrating
a mob because
so
someone he was close to was killed.
His brother.
Yeah, his brother. And I have to say, the most spectacular fight scenes I've seen in my life. Tony Jaa does not exist to me anymore. The lead actor who plays Rama, which I think his name is Eco something? I want to say it's
Ecosystem.
Eco Tano or something?
I'll look it up.
But
you keep me around.
He is a fantastic, fantastic fighter. And there are several fight scenes that I love here. One of them we've texted about liberally for over the past week, and that's the fight scene with the girl with the hammers.
Oh, God. Iko Uwas. U-W-A-I-S.
Iko Uwas. But the fight scenes with the hammer in the train. Oh,
wow.
Just...
Yeah, and very sexual as well in a very disturbing way. And her name is Julie Estelle, a very Americanized name for a young woman born in Jakarta.
Wow.
Yeah, she's 5'7", and her character is deaf. And wears
sunglasses.
The sunglasses, and also has the schoolgirl skirt on. And takes these guys apart with claw hammers.
It's just the most painful scene you will ever see.
That you cannot look away.
In your life.
Yeah.
Other than watching that I guess fake homeless? Can we say that? Was he fake homeless?
Oh, well, yeah, he was a fake because he was an assassin.
Yeah.
And so that was his...
A homeless hitch for her.
His trick. His disguise at that point.
Yeah, and he was an excellent fighter as well.
Yeah, I would say that was a good sequence when they take him out in the theater.
I felt
really bad. The nightclub.
I felt really bad for him because
poor guy.
I think he was observing his son.
Yeah, all he wanted to do was see his son.
That's what I picked up on, and wow, just a balls to the wall action extravaganza.
You know, and I know I had expressed this to you. My concern was that, the film runs 2:20.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, God, this, how can they sustain it?
I wanted to ask whether you felt it throughout
Well, my concern was, how do you sustain some sort of momentum with this? And I never felt as though it was too long.
Yeah.
I thought it was just right. And the thing is, it's a little deceptive as well, because the very first scene we see is very quiet, but it sets the tone. We see a cane field, and there's a road, and we see a hole. There's a hole. Yeah, they hold on that, and then you realize there's a hole that's been built in the road.
And you're like, oh crap, who's going in the hole?
Bad, yeah, because you know that this is how we're going to set it up, and it's very quiet, and then we go from there. And very deceptive, a nice way though to suck us in. And you had said, and I looked this up, that there's going to be a part 3, and there is, and I'm anxious to see it.
Also, that kitchen fight scene at the end.
Yeah, that poor cop.
Oh my gosh, that
poor cop in the grill.
Fight scene at the end. But I do like how he gets revenge on the person he befriends and the guy that he's in business with.
Yeah.
I felt bad for that person's father.
Yeah.
Who he's the son of a a kingpin of some sort. And
Yeah, so really good film.
Really a great film for martial arts. And just steps up the playing field entirely. You know, of course, they're doing an American remake of this.
All right.
I'm not happy about it, but you know what they're going to do? They're going to grab Tony Jaa and say, here, come be in our movie.
Anyway, American audiences don't know who he is.
I know exactly. That's why they're going to grab him. The other films I want to talk to you today are actually premiering at Ebertfest. I wanted to give the audience a little bit of a preview of what's going to be there. And the two films I want to do that with are two films we've seen and love. First, I want to talk about Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. When you saw this film,
All right.
What did you think? I know it's been a while.
I saw this film in Chicago when it first came out in a racially mixed audience. And I remember it being dead quiet at the end. I do remember that distinctly. No one said a word. And it's very rare that you get that with a film in which you are struck so hard by it and left, I don't know if I want to say reeling, but contemplative about the whole thing. The only other really thing I can think of at that point was Schindler's List, which came years after, having the same reaction after having seen it. You know, there are very few films where you see them the first time and immediately you know, wow, this is something special. This is a classic. And this, of course, was one of them. Very rarely, I think, especially a film about race, had I seen anything that dealt so honestly with the subject, but also in a way in which you could tell that Spike Lee just didn't care what anyone else thought.
Yeah.
He was going to say what he felt about race, and if you liked it, fine, and if you didn't, that was fine too. The one thing I've never heard anyone say, and maybe I'm wrong, but the thing that strikes me about the film constantly is, you know, the title is Do the Right Thing. And when you stop and think about it, no one does the right thing.
See, that's what I wondered on my viewing of the film.
No one does the right thing. You know? And it makes you think that perhaps doing the right thing is almost impossible.
That's one takeaway that I got from it. My first initial thought when I saw Mookie throw the trash can at the pizzeria was, okay, he's upset. Maybe that is the right thing to do to show, hey, that this guy may be this way. But there's no real evidential proof that he really is that bad.
Well, and I think Mookie's action at that point shows how easy it is to get caught up in the emotion of something. And then all logical thinking of doing anything that might be considered the right thing goes out the window. You get caught up in the emotion of something and things happen.
Because the first time I watched that scene, I was like, oh, okay, I think this is the right thing. I think maybe he should have rallied his neighborhood, but probably not to that extent.
But then the way it turns out.
Yeah, that's when I was like, well, no, not really. And then I started thinking along your line of thought, which is maybe doing the right thing at all is impossible, because no matter what you say, you're going to offend someone.
Well, you know, and what's interesting about that whole last sequence is that you've got the character Mother, I can't remember her full name, but she's played by Ruby Dee.
Yeah.
And when the pizzeria starts to burn, I don't know if you remember, she says, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn.
Yeah.
And she, up until that point, is the calming, one of the more calming figures in the neighborhood. And then to see her reaction of that, I thought was very interesting too.
Maybe
she gets caught up.
Maybe because she watched the pain so much.
And for much longer. Yeah. Yes, yeah. So, and that's one of the things that makes this a classic, and the film doesn't age. You can still talk about, you can still, I mean, there's so many, he's not playing it safe here at all. There's no net involved here. And that's when the great art occurs.
Yeah, I agree.
You know.
The other film that I want to spotlight is Short Term 12.
Oh, okay.
You and I both love Brie Larson's performance and how she really, at the heart of it, is like Do the Right Thing, trying to do the right thing for the kids in her care. And not only that, but struggle to balance her own life and her own personal issues, because we find out I would say about midway through the film, that she's also pregnant, and just
That doesn't bother me as much as the fact that we find out she's a victim of abuse.
yeah. I mean, that bothered me a lot, but just watching her do that while knowing that she's a victim of abuse, while knowing that she's pregnant, and her relationship was falling apart, all those things coalesced to make a very raw human experience, something that I feel like would happen if you're under that stress doing that kind of work. And that made for a very, very powerful performance from Brie Larson. Something that I, unlike you, did not expect from her. I didn't expect from her to do much. You've been on her side pretty much since day one, and I thought, what crazy pills is Chuck taking? Because I don't really see any of that within this actress. And I think it's true what you've always told me. You have to wait for the actor to take that one role that means
The one, the
something.
chance, yeah. Yeah.
That,
You know, and I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit, too, with another film that's going to be there, which we've loved, and that was Young Adult.
yeah.
Another movie that does not play, it plays completely against expectations.
Exactly.
With Charlize Theron and Patton Oswalt both taking big chances. Her playing a completely unlikable character.
And she'd done that before with Monster, but at least in
well-
Monster she was sympathetic.
Right, you understood how this woman kind of gotten to the point she is. In Young Adult, this former prom queen, this former person who you know was a real bitch in high school.
Yeah.
You now see her, 20 years later, and you see, wow, this doesn't work out all the time.
Yeah.
And to see her coming home and the roosters coming to roost for her was a very bracing movie. And I think this is probably, it could be the strongest lineups of films they've had ever there.
I would say so.
I mean, just a lot of great stuff. And we haven't even mentioned Wajda, Born on the 4th of July, both excellent films as well.
I agree. I will quickly say that the one scene of Young Adult that I really love is that really big confrontation that Charlize Theron's character has with Patton Oswalt. I think, doesn't he lose his walking sticks because she pushes him and he gets injured or something? Oh man, just the raw emotion of that scene of him trying to get her to face up to reality and for her to just be constantly resisting.
Yeah.
That to me was the most powerful scene. Either that or the scene at the where she's meeting up with her
The old boyfriend.
old boyfriend at the party, where she breaks down and says all of what she thinks is the truth, only to be profoundly alerted of, that's your fantasy, here's the reality.
Yeah.
A
lot of denial going on.
I love that film, and it's definitely one of those that I cannot wait to see at Eberfest when it comes together this Wednesday through Sunday. And if you don't have tickets to individual films, I strongly implore you all to wait in the rush lines for the films you think are ones you want to see. But I'll especially highlight Young Adult, Short Term 12, and of course Do the Right Thing. And Wadia is also a very, very brilliant international film that you should take advantage of. Until next time, I'm Chike Coleman of Sound On Sight and Smile Politely, and that's Chuck Koplinski from the Illinois Times and News Gazette. We will see you next week.